One heart, one way.
One way, one heart.
One way, one heart.
One heart, one way.
I have a soft voice. My friends always tell me I speak in a small font. So that's why I would like to hear myself, so that I am assured that everyone can hear me. Brothers and sisters, this is the day that the Lord has made. Come, let us rejoice. Can I ask that as we prepare to go into the purpose of the day, can we sing another vibrant song? Can we invite God into the session as we are going into it? I know it is a Saturday. Some of us could have been watching soccer. Some of us could have been warm in our blankets because it's very cold. But God decided that today the Westfield should come and gather for the purposes of the ATC. So as we are about to delve into that, can I ask that let's have been food, the sanctuary, so that we can prepare to get into the
in what you say, in the way you live, in your love. Abali is saying because we are young. ke yona ntho ne re tla tsamaya ka yona today.
The purpose of our gathering here today, we have gathered under the sea of creativity, and we have gathered in order to come and do one of our initiatives, which is based on skills development and knowledge transfer. So maybe before I continue, can I just check something? How many of you are in high school? If you are in high school, can you please raise your hand? Okay. Then how many of you are in the first year university? How many of you are in first year? And then how many of you are either unemployed or working or staying at home? Unemployed, working or staying at, you're not in school. You're not in school. Okay. Noted. Thank you very much. Today we have gathered because the demographics of our second is a second where, especially in the West Hill, young people, most of us are in university. The other majority are people who are starting out in their career. Some of them are people who are starting out in the self-employment space. And there is also a minority of young people in our circuit who are still in high school as well. And so, having recognized this, we thought that it would be important that as a Western Guild, we come and we gather and we share knowledge amongst each other. Because within the same Western Guild where there are students, within the same Western Guild where there are people starting out in their careers, there are those in that same Western Guild who have been in such careers and who have been in such spaces for a very long time. Some of them are fetching pension right now as we speak. And so we have asked that as a guild, let us come back to our guild and share that knowledge with the members who are upcoming in the career space. And so some of these people who will present are not necessarily in the same field as you, but the knowledge that they will give is beyond the field that you are in. It is things like career tips, it is things like how do you navigate a career, right? Yes, you go to school, graduate, and then what? You know, how do you go to interviews? How do you climb what they call the corporate ladder? What is the corporate ladder? And if you are not in that space, what other options are there that will allow you to also succeed in life if you're not going to go with the traditional space of finding a job and. So we have invited people who are very experienced. We have invited people who are very learned. And as a second, we have been blessed to have people in this second who are from different fields, who come with different knowledge, different backgrounds. And we have organized the space so that they can come and share and impart knowledge with us. So with those words, they are going to be presented as they come to the front. But when they speak, please take note of what they say. And where you do not understand, please feel free to engage them. Please feel free to ask them questions. Whether you feel that your question might not be relevant, whether you feel that your question maybe is not a good question, any question is a valid question, right? Because at the end of the day, we want you guys to take back something that you can impart in your life. Hopefully, next year someone will say, hey, because of something Brother Banban or Sister Banban said at that career workshop, I was able to do this and this in my career. It helped me in my studies, it helped me in my work, it helped me find a job, right? So please feel free to engage. If you want to engage in this course, the people that we have invited, they are very multilingual as well. We have made sure of that. And with those words, thank you guys very much.
My name is Ibilo Sonache. First and foremost, I'm a legal prophet. He was the Premier League, but trying to reveal my age here. And in my defense, I was the last one. I was one of the 4 people who did accounting in high grade in that school. But also one of the many students who attended extra classes for mathematics because my brain does not know how to change letters into numbers. So I struggled very much with that. And then after matric, I had applied to go and study at TUT. There was a long queue. I went to Boston College. There was no queue, there was juice. I was the only child. We had funds, and then I studied at Boston College. I did my diploma at Boston College, and then I completed my additional diploma in technical financial accounting, and then I completed the diploma. I started looking for a job. I remained in Pretoria because, only child, we have money, and then, but no, so you can look for a job. I looked for a job, and then on my second year of looking for a job, I decided I'm going to go study at UNISA. I thought I'm going to do my degree. Since I have my diploma, I'll do a few modules and then I'll do my degree. I get there and then UNISA says, no, what you were doing is not a SAICA approved diploma. Therefore, I went to go and do accounting 101. I started again. I said, this is supposed to do my right? Now, and then I decided to go and work for ECAS. So I worked for ECAS while I was doing my degree. I was a cashier then. And then later on, I was promoted. Well, it's a promotion in the retail space. I was then promoted to the sales department. And then one day, I got a call from a company called South African Pharmacy Council. They said to me, they have a 2-month contract. And then I said, yeah, no, I'll take it. I mean, it's accounting and I've been a cashier and I'm trying to be an accountant. So I said, no, it's fine, I'll do the 2-month contract. I went to go do the 2-month contract. After 2 months, they said, no, stay a little longer. 8 months later, they advertised the position of a finance officer. I applied for that position and I got that position. And then continued 3 years later, there was another position of financial controller, and then I started being a financial controller. So I'm currently a financial controller at the South African Pharmacy Council. Financial controller is just another name. It's just a fancy name for accountants. And I'm saying it's fancy because I remember when we got a new CFO, they wanted to change our titles. So they wanted to move us from financial controllers to senior accountants. The 2 other financial controllers in the department said, no, we want to be financial controllers. And I thought, I guess financial controller is a fancy name for being an accountant. And that's what I'm going to be speaking about today. So what we'll speak about very briefly is how do you become an accountant? Who do they work for? What do they do? I take questions, we conclude, and then we move over to the next speaker. Is that fine? So how do you become an accountant? Firstly, you need to study accounting from high school. You need to be doing your commercial subjects. However, if you do mathematics and science and universities consider you to be a very smart person, and some universities allow you to then study an accounting degree if you did not do accounting in high school. It doesn't work the other way. So if you did accounting, you cannot go into BSc. But if you did a BSc, some universities allow you to. So if you did a BSc, they consider you to be a very smart person. So you need to do that. You need to study accounting in high school, and then when you are done, you can then register for, depending on what you want to do, you can register for an accounting degree or an accounting diploma, and then continue to go and do your postgraduate in accounting, and then ultimately, if you're taking the other route, it's going to require you to write or exam and then be registered as a member. Right? So some professional bodies that you can actually register with. It's SAICA, which is the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants. If you want to be an accountant, I know that somebody is going to talk a bit about that later on, I think. You can be a South African chartered accountant, that you need to do your degree, you need to do your postgraduate diploma, and then you're going to write or one or two, and then you have article, and then you'll be qualified as a chartered accountant. There is also a route where you can take if you don't want to be a chartered accountant, but you like the actual numbers and you like crunching of numbers, you can go the route of South African Institute of Professional Accountants. So there you are mainly focused on the actual numbers, the debit and the credits, and you are not really doing everything that you're not doing audit, you're not doing all the other things that the chartered accountants are doing, right? And another one is if you enjoy management accounting, if you really enjoy management accounting, you like costing stuff, and you want to check how much it's going to cost us to produce this, and how much we're going to make in a year, how much are we going to have in 3 years, and how do we budget, then you can join what we call the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. The Chartered Institute of Management Accountants is also a professional body for management accountants, and management accountants, which I will speak to a little bit later. They do planning and strategic planning and long-term. They're more forward-looking than financial accountants. So financial accountants will say, how much did you spend? How do we report this? And they will say, okay, no, you spend this is how we classify it, and this is the profit that you have. Management accountant says, yeah, maybe in future this is how much you're going to spend, and they try and plan ahead and do strategic planning. Depending on the size of the organization or the company that you work for, you might find yourself doing both of them, and all three, and I'll speak to that just now. There's quite a lot of professional bodies. There's also an association of certified chartered accountants, the international body. There's also the Institute of Tax Practitioners if you're interested in tax. There's quite a number of professional bodies, but the biggest one being the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants here in South Africa. Now, who do accountants work for? Who do they work for? They work in accounting firms. So you know the big four. They work for KPMG, they work for PwC, they work for EY, and all these people. They also work for private companies. So every other company that you can think of has an accounting department. Every other business that you start needs somebody to look at the finances, needs somebody to actually take care of their funds. Surprisingly enough, guys, the government employs accountants. Even though they fail all the audits, even though they cannot account, the government also employs qualified chief accountants, qualified accountants. So you can also go and work for the government. And now these are the greatest ones. Accountants also work for non-profit making organizations. So people like us, we work for the South African Pharmacy Council. There's a non-profit making organization. There's almost an element of community service. Because you are doing the actual accounting work, but also the prime purpose of that organization is to make sure that people have access to medication, and that's why I think they are the cream. I'm also involved in other non-profit making organizations. Unfortunately, those ones don't pay me. It's free, and they are called the Methodist Church of South Africa. I do their finances for free, but like I said, they are great accountants because they do work, and it's a combination of community service and your skill, right? So if you're an accountant, again, you can also be a consultant, you can also be self-employed. If you don't like being employed, you can just say, are you guys struggling with your finances? I can come help. You look for small companies, and then you help them do their books, and then, you're not really committed to a contract. So you do your work as and when they please, and then make sure that you provide them with financial statement, help them with everything that accountants do and accountants. Now, what is it that they do? So when you are studying accounting, you will start at the beginning, making the introduction to communication. You will struggle with statistics because not all accountants understand maths. You will do economics. They will introduce you to business studies, whatever they call it now. But eventually, when you get to third year, you will specialize. So you will do the 4 things. You will do financial accounting, you will do management accounting, you will do taxation, and you will do audit. That will be your 4 majors if you are studying accounting science. And that is more likely what is going to determine what you are going to do once you go into the job market. So you're either going to be a management accountant, financial accountant, a tax consultant, or an auditor. What do financial accountants do? Well, like I said, depending on the size and the structure of the organization, you might find yourself doing quite a few things. You can do all 3. You can actually find yourself doing financial accounting, management accounting, and taxation. But you cannot be an auditor. And that's because an auditor needs to be an independent person that's going to come from outside and look at your work. So you might find yourself doing financial statements, you might find yourself doing budgets, and you might find yourself making sure that the company is compliant when it comes to SARS. So financial accountants, they do general ledger management. Depending on your position as a financial accountant, you could be capturing invoices, you could be passing general journals, you could be preparing financial reports, and you could be preparing financial statements. The difference between financial reports and financial statements is that financial reports are not governed by them. So when you're an accountant, how you disclose things is governed by international financial reporting standards. So if you see them at school with those books tell them exactly how to report something, where to report something, what to report at what point, and how to report. And that is what financial statements are. So financial statements need to be compliant to the international financial reporting standards. Financial reports, we sit as an organization or as a management and say, we just want to see how much we're making. And then we just draft the report and say, we want to see only the money that we receive. We want to see only the money that we spend. We want to see only, for instance, in the Wesley Guild, we have a very, very funny financial report. You will never find it anywhere else. It has an element of balance sheet at the top because it has an opening balance. Then it has an income statement in the middle, and then again goes back to balance sheet account at the bottom. So that you can never do in the real world because it is not allowed in terms of the international financial reporting standards. So depending on what the governing body wants to see, you will then design a report that shows the governing body what they want to see. And that's the difference between a financial report and a financial statement. Yeah. They also make sure that they adhere to the laws and regulations. So when you're an accountant, there are laws or other processes or internal control processes that will determine how a payment is made. They will say, this one must make a purchase requisition and must be approved. We must have a purchase order, we must have an invoice, we must have a receiving slip, and then we will make a payment and ultimately send a remittance advice. So when you are an accountant, you make sure that those processes are followed. It is your duty to make sure that you are compliant to the internal control processes of the company. It is your duty again to make sure that you are compliant to the rules and regulations of SARS. Because SARS says if you're going to pay an invoice and you're going to claim VAT for us, your invoice must have the words tax invoice. It needs to have an amount excluding VAT. It needs to have the address, it needs to have a VAT number, it needs to have the VAT number of the company that is providing the service. So when you're an accountant, before you make a payment, you ensure that all those things, all those internal control processes are adhered to, and every other law and regulation that comes from a external sources like SARS are adhered to. And then, everything that we do as financial accountant, we have at the back of our minds auditors. Auditors are a nightmare when you're an accountant. So when they take away our peace when you're an accountant. So from the time you are going to process a transaction, from the time you're going to process a journal or capture anything, you have an auditor at the back of your mind, and therefore you need to make sure that you have all your files in a correct manner. You need to make sure that you are ready to respond to somebody who's going to come and ask you, why did you do this? Even after many, many years of doing the very same thing, somebody will come to you and say, I see you did this, why did you do this? And therefore you need to make sure that you file your staff things, and then you can comply and you can provide all the necessary support when the company goes under an audit. Audit happens every year, and you need to make sure that you don't fail audit. It's going to be a very bad record on you if you are not compliant and you fail audit. Now we also look at management accountants. Management accountants, like I said, depending on where you work. So if you work for a manufacturing company, you are actually doing most of costing. You do costing, you're checking how much are we going to spend to produce them. How much are we going to spend on raw materials? How much are we more likely to make profit? At what point are we going to break even? At what point are we going to start making profit? And the management accountants are also, because like I said, management accountants are forward-looking as opposed to financial accountants that are backward-looking. So you can take management accountants into your strategic planning. They will help you with ideas and do all these strategic sessions. They will do your SWOT analysis with you. They will do all the other strategy sessions with you, because they are really people who are forward-looking. They are trying to look at the future and are trying to predict the future and what the company is going to do and how the company look like in the future. They are also, now because they are part of the strategic planning, they are also involved in process management to make sure that the company does not lose money in some way. And yeah, they are more forward-looking and backward-looking as opposed to financial accountants. Now you could also, if you have interest in reading the laws and regulations, and you could be a tax consultant. People who are tax consultant, they read this book by the tax legislation. Accounting, you see the tax legislation. There's a book called the tax legislation. It's full of laws and regulations and what SARS wants to do and what companies need to do to comply in terms of tax, what human beings need to do, what you must do if you are working outside the country, and who is going to tax you. So it's a very complex division. It's for smart people who wear glasses. You can be a tax consultant. You are actually going to help the companies with tax planning. You will say maybe we should start charging VAT on our services, because when you start charging VAT, then SARS in principle says if you charge VAT and you pay VAT, at the end of the year you can actually reconcile it. And if you have received a lot of VAT, you pay us, but if you have paid a lot of VAT, we will pay the difference to you. So when you are a tax consultant, you can actually advise these people to say, I think because we are making a certain revenue, we can start, and we are offering goods that VAT can be very on. We need to start offering that, because we will have VAT returns and we'll get refunds from. So that's what tax consultants do. They plan and advise the management on the tax benefits that may be available for the organization. They also ensure tax compliance. They are the ones that make sure that we file in time. They make sure that we submit all the file, the VAT ones, the EMP ones. It's a very complex decision. Like I said, I said, they make sure that the company is compliant and they don't revoke our status of good standing. Will make sure that with SARS, make sure that SARS does not come to us with penalties and charge the company and attach assets, because when SARS comes for you, even in your personal life, guys, please don't mess with SARS. When SARS comes for you, they will take everything, and everything that they can take. You can ask Dr. Malinga. They don't play. So please, even in your personal basis, if you are opening a business, if you are earning some form of income, see someone. If you're not sure, please go to SARS. We are willing to help you. Just book an appointment and speak to them to help you with those services for free. Tax consultants also represent tax companies and the tax authorities. So sometimes we find, we say, this is how much we've made, and SARS must refund us because of what we think we've made, and this is what needs to happen. And then SARS will say, no, your calculations are not correct and they need to be corrected, or they will take you to audit. Now, tax consultants are the guys who are going to take all the necessary information and go speak to SARS and make sure or prove to SARS that you are indeed making that much, you are indeed charging that, and you deserve that refund from SARS. And whatever dispute that may be there, your tax consultants will go and speak on behalf of you at SARS. So that's what tax consultants do. And then, because it keeps on changing, SARS keeps on changing things. Every time the minister speaks, or every time there's a budget speech, there are changes, there are amendments, there are, depending on what happens, there will be tax consequences, there will be tax changes, there will be things that affect you. At my workplace, recently they decided they were giving us everything that they owe us. So at the end of the month, they give you your money, you go home, you make sure that you pay your own medical aid there, you make sure that you put your money wherever you want to put it. Now they came back and said they want to pay your medical aid. Now when the company starts paying for your medical aid, it means you are now getting a fringe benefits going to affect your tax, it's going to affect your total income. Depending on where you are, it's a very complex thing. You might move a bracket higher or a bracket low, and then it might change what you are eventually taking home. So I work in an environment that has unions. There was a lot of disagreements. So we had to go get tax consultant to come and explain and educate everybody to say, no, this is not going to be your benefits, this is what's going to happen. So tax consultants do that. They are actually there to also educate us about this complex taxation system that we have in South Africa. And last, I had one point that I wanted to put here. I wanted to say auditors are my people. And they annoy you. They will all answer. But generally what they do is they will, so primarily they need to give confidence to the users of the financial statement. They give reasonable assurance to the users of the financial statement. So if you wanted to invest in a company, and two people come to you, and both of them says, no, but I make a revenue of 100 million every year. And both of them give you financial statements that shows that they make 100 million every year. The other one is signed by an auditor, and the other one is not signed by an auditor. Which one are you investing in? The one that is signed by an auditor. So that's what they do. They give reasonable assurance. They say they don't want to give us absolute assurance because you guys know how to hide things and everything, and they might not be sure. But they give reasonable assurance to the users of financial statements to say, indeed, this is how much these people are making, and they are not doing anything. So they look at our financial statements, they check if we disclose. Remember, I spoke about financial statements and financial reports. They make sure that we disclose financial statements according to the international financial reporting standards, and make sure that whenever we publish them, those is supposed to be accounted for is accounted for in a way that is supposed to be accounted for. They also come and check the controls within the organization. Remember when I spoke about they will come and check if we are really sending out purchase requisition, we are following the process of purchase requisitions, purchase orders, invoices, receipts. Did we pay the right people? Did the right people sign for those payments? Where those payments are authorized according to the company policies? And then in turn, once all of that is done and they've checked compliance, that will also help companies prevent fraud. So you can imagine if the auditors come and look at everything and everything is going according to the way it's supposed to go, then we will have less fraud in the organization. And really, they annoy us, but to a certain extent, really they help us. And yeah, we have a love-hate relationship with auditors. They are not bad sometimes if you're compliant, if you do your job and everything that you did. Whenever we involve interns at work, I always say to them, from the moment you start opening your financial system and you start capturing, think about it and ask yourself, can I show an auditor this without getting into trouble? And if you can do it from that moment, from the time you receive an invoice and you are capturing it correctly and you are compliant, you will not have issues with auditors, you will not find the auditors annoying. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that is all about accountants. And if you have questions, you can ask. If you don't have any questions, it will be lovely.
Good morning. Yeah, as Sister Amu has said, Sister Amu. Yeah, what do I do? I'm Kemutamudimu, guys. Hi, Kemutamudimu Kiabereka. But I think I'm a generalist. A generalist is a person that knows a little about many things. Bokuipelo Lebo Sister Pure are specialists, they know a lot about one thing. Me, I know a little about a broad spectrum of things. So I'll take you through. I've had the joy of having a very colorful career. I'm not there yet, but over the last 14 years, I've done quite a couple of different jobs and specializations, and that's why I think of myself as a generalist, because I haven't done one stream of things and stuck to that thing. So Nakyo Hulete Social Move next door, Le Matibe start next door and next door and next door. Le Matibe, I went to Sunnyside Primary School. Went to Sunnyside Primary School. I am not as old as Bipelo because I didn't go to middle school, guys. I went straight from primary school to high school. So yeah, I went to Pretoria Girls High. I then jumped the road and I went to UP across the road. I like Pretoria. We don't leave Pretorians. We like it here. And so there's no reason for us to go anywhere. I am number 4 of 5 children, so I have the benefit of growing up in a very big family. I'm telling you all these things because I believe it or not, I played basketball. In our first team was champions in the Pretoria League for 2 years running. When I was in grade 11 and matric, you wouldn't believe it because, you know, dynamite, small packages and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like I said, then I went to UP, and when I got to UP, I then joined an organization. Those of you who studied Go UP, or even if you studied Go UJ or BITS, you would know RAG. And it's a charity organization, or it's a charity wing of the university, and I joined that organization. I was a part of it from first year up until third year. I sang in UP Chorale that later became Ovua. I coached basketball, you know, maybe that's why you say I didn't have time. I think that's how I avoided teenage pregnancy. But yeah, I coached basketball, and then I qualified. I studied a BCom communication. And BCom communication, as it was for UP, us and the marketing students did basically the same qualification. The differentiation came third year, where they would then specialize in marketing and do a practical marketing assignment, and we would do communications and do a practical communication assignment. And now, and this I want to touch on because of something that Brother Bipino said, is that in your first year as a BCom student, you are going to do accounting, you are going to do stats, you are going to do economics, and as a marketer, you are going to think, what the hell, the company is going to employ accountants, but then marketing also has different facets, and depending on where you end up in marketing, you are going to need the background of understanding how economics work. You're going to need the background of understanding how accounting works. So if you hate it, just stick through it. 49 condone 250. It's okay. And then, yeah, and then I left varsity. I graduated. I finished my degree in 2009, 2010. Yeah! Guys, I keep saying this. In 2010, I was looking for work. South Africa is South Africa. I looked for work in 2010. I didn't find any work. Fortunately, I was still coaching basketball at the time, so at least I wasn't idle. I had something to just keep me busy. I got a job in 2011 at Toyota South Africa, and I've never left. So also, resignation letter, I've never resigned from a company. This is the first company I've ever worked for in my life, and I am still there to this day. I don't sell cars. I don't sell cars. Just to clarify, I don't sell cars, guys. I don't sell cars. I can't give you a discount. The most I can do for you is put you in touch with somebody that can sell you a car, because I know them. But personally, I don't sell cars. I don't work in a dealership. But I do want to talk a little bit about the automotive industry, because the automotive is broad. And like Bibilo said, in automotive, we have accountants, we have lawyers, we have people who studied marketing like me, we have engineers, mechanical, industrial, electrical, we have technicians that work in the dealer but also at head office. The only thing we don't have is a horticulturist.
We have secretaries.
I had to throw it out there, you know. But corporate organizations are set up such that within the corporate, it actually gives a broad spectrum of people. We have IT specialists, you have people, who just look at systems and how things work and develop things. So it's quite broad what you can do. The automotive industry in South Africa is quite big. You have 7 companies that manufacture locally. We contribute 5% of the GDP, and we employ about 116,000 people, and that excludes suppliers. So that's just the automotive industry alone. Is it a cool industry to work for? I think so. I've never left. So yeah, I don't know. I always say you could be making fridges, but it doesn't seem exciting. So just in terms of how I started. So yes, 2011, I came in as a graduate trainee, and as a graduate trainee, basically we intern. You are just rotating through sales and marketing. You are learning things. You feel like you don't have a real job. Some days you are frustrated because you're like, what's my job? And then they say your job is to learn, and you're like, okay, fine, whatever. What was I doing there in varsity? But your job is to learn. In the middle of 2012, and I think from 2012 to about the beginning of 2021, that's when I was in my specialist era. And I then became a product specialist. Now, what a product specialist does in the automotive industry, and I think a lot of industries, is quite similar, is that you are the person that looks at the market. So for a car to be here, it's not just like, tada. You know, there's a lot of thought and planning and processing that goes into it. And what a product specialist does is you need to understand the market dynamics of the areas in which you operate. So for us, South Africa, but as well as Botswana, Lesotho, Namibia, Le Eswatini. And you look at those markets because when the parent company says, Rebata, we introduce a car X, you then say, all right, first of all, the product as it is there an appetite for that product? And then the answer is yes. And then you take the study further down the road and you say, all right, if we were to sell this car, what spec does it need to have? So does it need a radio? Does it need aircon? And these things may be things that we, radio. No, there are cars that don't have radios because they are targeted at specific markets. So does it have a radio? Does it need to have an aircon? What size must the tires be? What colors are we going to bring them in? Yada, fish paste. You need to understand, where I say you need to understand economics and you need to understand a bit of financing, is you also then need to position this car in the market to say, if we price it too high, people can't afford it, this car is not going to sell. If we price it too low, then it's going to mess with the image of the brand, because why can I buy this Toyota for 50,000? What is wrong with it? And so you need to find that sweet spot in the market where the price is right, that the company is going to make money, but that people are also going to be able to afford this car. And then you get into the marketing space of it to say, all right, now this is the spec, this is the color. Who are we actually going to sell it to? How are we going to sell it? What is the message that we want to have in the market about this car? And you develop the strategies that support it. When you are done, your job does not end there. You launch, but then you come back into the market and you say, all right, what worked very well? What did we do very well because we had these goals? It was too expensive, the colors weren't right, people wanted 20-inch low riders and we didn't have them because, that's not how we roll. But you do all of those things because those are the things that then inform the next product. And so I did that sort of work for 9-10 years. I did that, and it's nice because you get to work on a lot of different things. You're also not just product planner for this one car for forever and ever and ever, and you rotate and you do a lot of different things. Just in terms of, I think, some of the key skills was obviously communication and marketing, but also analysis and strategy, because the car that you see released today, we didn't plan it last week. The car that you see released today has been in planning for the last 3 or 4 years. And so you need to be able to have foresight to say, what does the market look like in 3 years' time when we launch this vehicle? So you need to have that knowledge. And not deep, you don't have to be able to take apart an engine, no. But you need to understand what things do in a car, otherwise you are not going to spec a car correctly because you don't understand what a car does. In terms of that period of my career and the things that I learned is master your craft. And I think this is a general statement. Just become the master of anything that you do. Become the person when they say, I want to laugh at, she studied horticulture. So she said she feels like today doesn't speak to her. So I'm going to speak to you. But you must master your craft. If in the botanical gardens they need somebody that understands why this thing that is happening now is happening, you need to make it so that people think of you. And that is how you begin to create a name for yourself in corporate and make it easier to start climbing the corporate ladder that Brother Leso was talking about. You need to learn perseverance and resilience, because people walk into work and you think, I'm going to come up with these brilliant ideas, and the people are going to clap hands for me, and then you're going to come up with an idea, and in nice corporate language you're going to say, that idea is stupid. And when they tell you that idea is stupid, you can't, because what do you mean? Don't you have bills to pay? You dust yourself off and you come back to work the next day and you carry on giving. So you learn resilience. And then it's also about showing up for moments of growth. So in your career, there will be times that they ask you to do something that is not necessarily the thing that you do. And a lot of people find it easy to say, no, this is not my job, I'm not going to do it. And that then becomes the name that you build for yourself. So, oh, okay, this person is not willing to learn or do anything outside of their comfort. And so you need to learn to take moments and opportunities when they come, even if it's moments for leadership and leading teams and mentoring new people that come into the department and teaching people work and how you do things. Take those moments. Don't say this is not my job and I'm not going to do it, because then the corporate is going to say, okay, Shab, you are here for a 9 to 5, we are going to pay you for that and nothing. I then, in the beginning of 2021, just as we were coming out of COVID, I moved to sponsorships and events. And sponsorships and events, we know what, okay, I'm not going to assume, but we, as a corporate, we do sponsorships because we want to build brand value and we want to create relationships and be able to communicate either with our target market, or we want to attract people that would have never looked at a Toyota before. So something like Kaiser Chiefs, like that, the Toyota on the sleeve, it's like, okay, you do it for money. No, it's not just to give them money. We do it so that we can activate through Kaiser Chiefs, and all of a sudden you have an audience of millions that probably would have never interacted with a Toyota before, but because you are now giving yourself access to fan base, Kaiser Chiefs, you're able to communicate with those people. You are able to communicate with people who sit at home and watch the game, and you don't know. We can never measure it because it's not an exact science, it's more of an art. But somebody sitting at home thinking, hey, I need a car, I need a car, I need a car. And they keep seeing Toyota, and it becomes that subliminal messaging of, oh, let me go to my nearest dealership and go see what it does there. And so that's why we do sponsorships, that's why we do events, because we want to get the brand name out there. And so I did that for about 7 months. It was less than a year, but it was a fun job. It's just, we were coming out of COVID, outside wasn't open, so it also wasn't nice, you know, it was small nice, not big nice. But again, you learn through that, you learn communication, you learn negotiation, because you don't just go to Kaiser Chiefs and say, okay, well, if I X amount, and then you are going to put our name on your sleeve, and then they also want things in return. So then you must whoa. You know, this is not a charity that they're running. They want things, you want things. And so you learn how to bring people around the table and say, all right, how do we do this that is beneficial for you, but it's also beneficial for us? And then again, in sponsorships, you can plan an event to the T. Something is going to happen that nobody planned for, and then you learn to pivot and navigate. So, okay, ulayana. Now what? What happens when it rains? Because things must continue. But you also learn a lot of project and budget management. Hence, you just need to have an idea of what happens in accounting, because you have to do your own budgets when you work in certain jobs. And then for my sins, I worked in sales. I did not study sales. I had no idea what people in dealerships do because I don't sell cars. Yeah. But I worked in sales, I think, for a while. And sales, the way it happens in an automotive, we have our own strategy. As Toyota, at the beginning of the year, we say we want to sell 140,000 cars. Now, how are we going to sell 140,000 cars? Okay, 120,000 are going to be sold through the dealers. And when you work in a regional capacity and in a dealer-facing capacity, it is how do you support dealers to be able to sell those cars, because now those 140 must translate to something on the ground. So how do you help them put together strategies? How do you help them think? Because people in dealerships, if any of you ever work in a dealership, you'll know that month to month, like target to target. They're not thinking, okay, I must do marketing now because in a year from now, they don't think like that. And it's your job then as the head office to help them to think like that and see the picture and drive their success that way. For my sins, and because I believe in learning, and I'll get to it, somewhere before this role, I also then registered an MBA. Did I have money? No, I didn't have money. Did I have a plan? I didn't have a plan. My plan went as far as I'm going to do the test and I'm going to register. That was the sum total of the plan of my life. But God operates on our faith. God operates on our faith. When I did my MBA, and honestly, people are like, yeah, but you must have had a plan. I wanted to study, and I was like, if I owe them fees, I owe them fees. And what are they going to do? Not give me my results? Okay, but God being God, my first year of studies were actually then sponsored, like Gibbs sent an email one day and they're like, hey, there is this scholarship and they're looking for black females, yada, yada, yada. And I was like, it's me, yeah, it's me, I'm a black female, yes, please pay my fees. And that's how my first year of school fees was paid. And then all of a sudden you don't have that burden. You just need to worry about second year. So yeah, I did that. And I think that's when I really became a generalist. Because if you study an MBA, you'll know that you study lots of things, but small chunks, only the things that you need to know. Tax, no one needs to know except the tax specialist, so you don't study that thing. And now I am a general manager for training. Again, I've never studied human resources, I've never studied people development, but it's that thing of being the one that says, hey, do you want to do this? Sure, I'll do it. Do you want to learn this thing? Sure. Because I mean, as long as you're not making me build cars, what can I mess up really? You know, but it's that thing of putting your hand up and saying, I'll do it, I'll learn, I'm willing. And so now I find myself in training and development, and we train across the spectrum, or my team trains. So I don't need to have the knowledge. There are specialists who have the knowledge. I just need to have the knowledge of how to manage people and how to manage stakeholders. And so all the things that I said in the beginning, that you join organizations like RAG, you join organizations like the Wesley Guild, you coach basketball, it's not random things that you do, but you do those things because it's here chairing the general meeting of this organization that you get to engage difficult people, and it's here chairing difficult meetings that you learn to start negotiating with people to say, we have a common goal, we are just not hearing each other, how do we get there together? And what I find, and Sister Amu asked me to touch a little bit on what you see in the workplace and people coming in, you find that there are people coming in for interviews, and especially at a graduate trainee level, but you can hear whether this person, all they've ever done is go to school, go home, go to school, go home. And so when you begin to ask them general questions, yeah, tell us about a time when you had an issue that you needed to resolve. Yay! And you're like, yo, yeah. So my thing is, a lot of you have already chosen careers. A lot of you have already decided what it is that you want to do with your life. But do not be the person that goes to school and goes home and goes to school and goes home. Expand your horizon, because also, if you just go to school and go home, you don't give yourself space and time to engage with different opinions and people that see the world differently to you. And in the world of work, not all of us are raised by the same parents, not all of us come from the same faith, not all of us have the same background, and so all of a sudden you are going to be in this world where you are dealing with a million different people who see the world a million different ways, and part of your responsibility is, how do I bring these people together? But if all you did was go to school and go home, you are going to have a problem, because you never exposed yourself to having to think widely and thinking differently. Another thing that happens in the workplace is you are going to get to work. No one is going to teach you how to stand in front of people and present. It's not a course at the workplace. It's not, no one teaches you. One day they're going to say, Mbasa, here's the strategy you are presenting today. And then you're going to say, but what do you mean? Mbasa's going to say exactly that. And so when we do things in the Wesley Guild and you become the convener of a C and you become a secretary, these things force you to present to people. So when you stand in front of people, it's not the first time that you are standing in front of people and you're thinking, these people. You also know that if I make a mistake, I won't die. Why? Because you've made mistakes here and you didn't die. So you learn that skill through being part of societies and organizations, and not just go to school. I think just in terms of key lessons and things that I wanted to share is, one, become a well-rounded person. Don't be a one-dimensional person. Don't be a boring person. Corporates don't like boring people, and they'll never say this to you out loud, but they don't like boring people. When they meet you, they want to engage with you. They want to find out, who are you? What do you do? And if you are going to be the girl in the corner that says, "Hi, Naki Am," they're going to forget about you, and they're going to forget that you exist. Sabobedi is find what you love and pursue that thing. Now, I always tell a story with caution. I'm not saying go and do this. I'm not encouraging but at the end of my matric year, I was offered a bursary to go study engineering. But I knew in my heart, I was like, I'm not an engineer. I can't. My soul will die. I need to work in a job where I communicate and I talk to people, because that people are my passion. Hey, and guys, my father didn't talk to me for 2 months, I think. 2 months, because take the bursary. I said, no. Take the bursary, no. Not gonna pay your school fees. Did I have money? No, I didn't have money. Had he actually said, I'm not gonna pay your school fees, I don't know what would have happened, but I think I had the conviction of knowing I didn't want to be an engineer. I knew that it's not what I love. I knew if I did engineering, I'm going to do a 4-year degree, I'm going to come home and I'm going to put it on their wall, and then I'm going to go do the things that I love. And so it was dicey for my dad and I, but we love each other now because it worked out and we are fine things now. The third thing is have fun. You're going to get to work and it's going to be serious, but guys, it's deep net, but it's not that deep. Unless you are a brain surgeon or a doctor, it's not that deep, man. Have fun, enjoy your work. I always say to my team, if you spend 8 hours sleeping, it means you are left with 16 hours that you are awake. 8 of those hours you are at work. So literally half of your waking life, you are at work for 30, 40 years of your life if you retire at 60, 65. So have fun, stuff is serious, little like and then also trust the process. Now when you can't see, and there were many times in my career where I couldn't see. But again, operate in faith. You want to do another course, do it. God will provide. That thing was my mantra. It was me, I was Abraham, I was like, God will see. I'm doing this. But trust the process, have faith that things are going to work out. That being said, have faith and also work hard. You cannot pray your way to a promotion that you didn't work for. That's not how faith operates. So you need to exercise both. Have faith, trust the process, but also work hard. And then I think the last one is, the second one is, don't stop learning and don't stop growing, because we know what's happening with 4IR, and there's a lot of fear. AI is going to take my job. Well, yes, AI is going to take your job if you don't develop yourself. If you do a job that is a process and you are not willing to learn anything outside of the process, yes, AI is going to take your job. Yes, we are going to teach the AI to look at the plants and tell us what is wrong with the plants, and then we are not going to need you. But if you say, all right, in the 4th Industrial Revolution, what are we going to need? We're going to need people that lead. We are going to need people that know how to program the thing that we'll be using. And then you start to develop those skills. People who stop learning are people who say, I've arrived, I'm not going to learn anything else, and then the robots are going to take your job, and it's going to be awkward when you are unemployed. And then this one, I think the employed people will vouch for me. When you tell people to network, people will be like, so let's buy. So I must suck up to the boss. No, that's not what we are saying. We are saying at your company, there are 20 of you that do the same job. Make sure that when I say we need to promote Odwa because Odwa works hard, don't make it my job to now have to answer, who's Odwa? Like, now I must first start, okay, no, it's that guy that sits in the corner, and make it easy for people to remember who you are. And then the last one is be kind. Be kind coming into work, be kind as you get promoted, be kind when you make it, wherever it is. Be kind to the people coming in, because remember that Loena, one day, it was your first day at this job and you knew nothing. And people taught you everything that you know. Be kind because you are where you are, because someone believed in you and was kind to you and decided to teach you all the things that they needed to know. And yeah, I think that is it from me. One last warning that I also want to give you is social media. Forever, Yona. You are going to post something and you are going to delete it and you are going to think it's gone. And this I say specifically for people who are going to go into the job market and are going to look for work. You cannot delete yourself from the internet. Everything that you post, everything that you like. And I think it's a growing trend, and X creates this thing, yeah, oh, but it's my account and I can do whatever I want with it. To that I say, do whatever you want, but when it comes back to bite you, be okay with that as well. But no, I think we live in a generation of people where, well, one, diklong don't exist anymore, so we just post things, but also we want to separate ourselves at work from ourselves in our social lives, from ourselves in the lives of social media. And organizations don't think of you like that. Organizations think of you as a brand ambassador. Whatever this girl puts on social media, are we okay as an organization being associated with this thing? And so you don't want one day to walk into an interview and do really, really well. And then when they do a background check and they look at your social media and they're just like, this one, we cannot take this risk. And that is, I always say to young people, especially people in high school coming into varsity, is be careful what you leave in your digital footprint. Someone will find it. HR is bored, guys. HR, they're bored. And they pay people to go find these things. It is somebody's job to actually find that thing. And they're going to find it, and you're not going to get a job because of that thing. So just be mindful of what you put on social media. And then, yeah, man, that is it. That is my story. I know I don't specialize in anything. Every day and stuff on the highway. But yeah, that is me. I think I've had a blessed career, and I love what I do. I love the company that I work for. I love this movement and I love people. But yeah, that's me.